I love a good story where a protagonist toes that line between light and dark. This is a lot. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. The 8th episode of Smoke is here. It is called Mercy, and it is a doozy. I feel like I can say that a lot of the episodes from this show. But it also should not come as a complete surprise. I think this show has done a really good job of positing the idea that Michelle is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but more importantly, she was like Dave, born within fire. And so people and kids who have sort of been stunted to their growth has been stuck in that moment when fire sort of consumed them and took over. She is just a yin and yang. And so when we get to the back end of the episode and she does what she does, yes, it seems a lot, but it also seems like there was build up to get to this point. Even though it is still shocking as hell. So in this episode called Mercy, the team is at a bit of a loss. The task force that's set up to go after Dave is at a bit of a loss because the tracker is dropped and he is gone. Dave's gone on the 6th fire arson spree. Like he is just burning stuff left and right. And there's no way to track him because the tracker has fallen off because it was put in a poor place, which Captain Steve, lets them know ad nauseum. But he also lets them know that, like, hey, look, I can probably keep my chief, his chief, the police officer chief, at bay for another day before we're going to get completely shut down. So whatever we can do to make sure that Dave ends up in cuffs by the end of the night, we got to do that. Otherwise, this whole thing is going to go for naught and it's going to go up in a cloud of smoke, metaphorically. Chief Englehart of the fire department makes it back to his office and he sees a photo of his lake house crushed and then left on his desk purposefully. And it sort of brings back some things that we'll get to a little bit later in the episode. But he realizes that, oh crap, Dave has a thing on me that is probably going to come back up at some point in time. And so for him being on the task force, again, another piece of Dave being friends with Chief Englehart is going to come to bite him in the butt. But the task force has a patrol car on Ashley's house and on a rental and hotel that Dave has been staying at. Now, here's the thing. As good as that patrol car is, Dave's still standing outside of Ashley's home with a lighter, like pretending her like lining up the flame of his lighter with her head, pretending that she is engulfed in a bunch of fire. So he is eventually going to attempt to go after Ashley. When and how, it's probably a little too hot for him to do so now, but it's gonna happen. And then the next thing you see is Dave walking into the precinct like nothing matters. Now, here's the thing I mentioned in the last episode. Currently, he is a god to them because he just solved the milk jug arsonist. So outside of the folks that are involved in the task force, no one's going to be the wiser or look any differently at him walking into that room because, like, he is top cop number one, top arson investigator number one. And so he just walks right in and Chief was like, wait, what? And once you find out what he has over the chief, you can see why he's a little bit more brazen. Like, the chief ain't gonna say nothing. The rest of them folks at the task force, they might, but the chief, he can't say stuff because he knows I have the white flag for him. The chief does call the task force, like, yo, y'all looking for Dave? He's here. He just walked right in. And they're like, what is he doing? He's like, he's eating a donut. Like, he is very brazen because Dave knows that if they had something, they would have already arrested him. They would have already gotten him. They don't have any fingerprints, any DNA. They have no motive for Dave to be that person outside of maybe just liking to have fires, which isn't enough to actually arrest him. So then at the precinct, while Chief is on the call with the task force with Steve and those folks, Dave calls Michelle and kind of is like, hey, where you at? I'm in here. Let's go ahead and get to work because there's 6 arson fires that have occurred. And you and I need to team up to do this. Now, they know it's not really a trap, but they know that he's aware of who they are and he's aware that she's a part of this team. And so it's literally a way for them to bring him in and sort of have a pissing contest with Michelle. So the task force put a discreet wire on her. They know he knows that she's going to be wired up, but it's not going to be a visible one. They put one in her button. Um, but Steve, as she's leaving, says, "Look, he knows. So poke the bear, but don't let the bear bite you." She's like, "Cool, I got it. I'll be fine." So she gets to the precinct, and they have some very uncomfortable back and forth, like a lot of pulling up old wounds and poking at old wounds that the two of them have together. Because Dave, even though she's not in this moment, but because it doesn't read the same way that it did before he knew where she was, he's like, "Oh, you're a little standoffish." She's like, "Well, I read your book, and the portrayal of me that you have in that book is a lot." And he starts speaking about her femininity and her beauty. She's a gorgeous woman. Um, but then she's like, "Yeah, the scene where your character screws my character at the back of a patrol car is just a lot." He throws back. I was like, "Well, would you prefer to be in the front seat?" Um, which she throws at him. "Do you want to have sex with me?" It's a lot more explicit. I'm not going to use that right now. But she's like, "Yeah, do you want to have sex with me?" And he's like, "Nah, not really my thing. Um, not my type. It's like, I don't like to shit where I eat." To which she then says, "But that's your thing." And knowing that the people they're wearing wire, like Steve's wearing wire, but also there are other people that are there listening to this conversation. So he starts throwing at her like, "Yeah, you know that's your thing. Like you and Steve are a thing and whatnot." Not everybody's aware of that, but it's sort of throwing dirt on her, but also throwing dirt on Steve because he just sucker punched him in front of everybody. So he's killing two birds with one stone, knowing that there's an audience that's listening. So they're just having a pissing contest back and forth. They're throwing stuff. They're throwing dirt on each other left and right. Um, it gets ugly. But then Dave's like, "All right, well, enough of this. Let's go check out some of these fires." And I feel like he has this whole sort of day planned of what he plans to do with her because he sort of takes her on this road trip to sort of, as we say, go down memory lane, if we will. They arrive at one of the fires, and Dave, like always, when he gets to one of these, that's his fire, he immediately finds the point of origin. Finds it, but he does it so that he can see that I've changed up things a little bit. Typically, for his fires, he would have a quarter with a cigarette that had a filter in it. And so it wouldn't burn all the way out. It would still be a little bit of the cigarette left so they could find it and get the DNA off of it. In this fire, he's changed it up so that there are now filterless cigarettes. And so the cigarette is completely gone and thus no way to get a DNA. He's like, "Yeah, turns out the arsonist is evolving, is growing up," which is his way of saying what you were using prior, what you were using before ain't going to work right now. Well, that's happening while they're on their road. Ezra and Dawn put a new tracker on Dave's rental, and so they put it in a place where he breaks in. He put it in a place where he's not going to be able to remove it. It's not going to just fall off by just road rage. We would pick up back with Dave and Michelle as they're riding. They're still giving each other shit in the car. Um, and then he brings up the point like, "Yeah, you guys have no DNA, no fingerprints, no motive. Like, there's nothing you guys have that could, if you had the person, you knew who it was, there's nothing you guys can do about it because we don't have anything for it." And Michelle says, "He's not worried because we got top cop Dave Goodson on the case." And she's like, "Man, you're great at this. Like, you should have been a detective." He's like, "No, that's not really my thing." She's like, "Really? Because you applied for the police force. Like, you applied and you passed all the tests. You passed the medical, you passed the physical. Oh, but you didn't pass the psych because they said you had a propensity for being violent." He throws at her like, "Hey, look, this whole poor is me, woe is me, black girl born in fire stick that you got going on, it's not holding up anymore because you're a pretty black woman with a 401k. So the struggle ain't real anymore." Um, to which he then says, she calls him out. It's like, "Hey, look, you want to watch violence, you want to watch people burn, you want to watch dogs burn. I'm not the one who's out here burning dogs alive." Which, damn. That's a. He's like, "Okay, cool. I'm talking to Ezra." And Ezra showed you the video that we had. Got it. So then they arrive at another fire. And in this fire, quickly learn that there's a witness that is apparently present, which Dave kind of is like, "Oh, okay." Michelle's like, "Say less, bet. Let's go see this witness. And Dave, you come with me because if she truly saw the person who did it, she would be able to spot Dave in a heartbeat." And they go in, and Michelle is asking genuine questions, but Dave's being bit of a dick about it all, trying to get him to make her, this witness is a paralegal, but trying to make her go into great detail about where she was, what she was using the restroom, where she was taking a number one or a number two, all that stuff. But it's quickly realized that yes, while she has the physical attributes of who Dave is, and Dave, she sort of names like, yeah, short, white, short haircut, brown hair. Michelle kind of looks at Dave's like, yep, that's you. And Dave smirks like, yeah, because Dave knows if she knew it was him, she would already point him out. She would be like, it's him. Um, and so he's a little bit more comfortable with giving her the shit. So as Michelle and Dave leave, Captain Steve is arriving to sort of meet with the witness. Like, hey, have you ever seen? Basically, is trying to say, did the person that you just saw walk out of here? Was that the guy? Because he's kind of like, have you ever seen that person? Have you ever seen him? Have you seen him recently? Have you seen him in the last hour? She's trying to feed her as much as he can without blowing up the positive identification. She's got nothing. So Steve's like, crap, I don't have it. So they go off. At that point, Dave and Michelle's like, Dave's like, I'm hungry. I can go eat. So they go to this restaurant, this diner, and Michelle's like, I thought you were hungry. Like, I thought you liked the burger. She was like, no, I don't like the food. The food's not good here. I did come for the view. Because across the street is a dollar store. That used to be something else. That used to be something else. That used to be an old seedy hotel where there was this one thing where this black woman, meth head, brought one of her tricks to her hotel and then set it on fire. Set the trick on fire, set the three people who were outside, killed three people here. The funny part about all of this is that there was a young girl, 12-year-old girl, who was inside the closet this whole time while the mom was doing this stuff. Her name was Mercy. And that's when Michelle's like, don't you ever have to say that name again, because it's her story. It's her. Dave has done his homework and looked it up on her and now flipping the script on her. And she's like, don't you ever say that name again. So at that point, Dave says, you don't need to be afraid of me. Like, we can be fine. Like, you don't need to be afraid of me. And Michelle's like, I'm not afraid of you. Like, you are a loser. It's like, you are an arson investigator who sets fires to look and tries to solve them, to look like a god amongst people. And then you write a confession book and no one's afraid of you. You're the biggest joke that I've ever seen. Now you can tell that he's gotten under her, because he's like, well, then why aren't you laughing? And she just gets up and leaves. So another great scene between the two of them where the power dynamic keeps gestating back and forth. They keep going back and forth. They keep going back and forth to this point where even though Michelle stands up and leaves, where that seems like the power dynamic, in that scene, when that ends, Dave is the person who has the control of the situation between the two. He's gotten under her skin enough where, yeah, she's got to retreat. So Chief Englehart's daughter comes in to visit, and Chief Englehart's like, look, I made a mistake. I've effed up. Taking some money from the department to fund some things. And the daughter's like, oh, $5,000? You can get that back. She's like, nah, it's more like $250,000. And she's like, what the hell, Dad? And he says, hey, between your school and the medical bills, which he did not use those funds for, he didn't really have anything left for himself. He's like, I paid your school, I paid it, but I wanted something for me. I wanted something that I could have. And so the lake house that he purchased was that. But he didn't have the money, the pension, nothing that he had would cover that. And so he had to take money. He didn't have to. He took money to pay for it. And she's like, well, who else knows that besides you? And she's like, well, Dave. And they were both like, well, shit. Because that's why Dave punches that picture. He wants him to let you know, like, I got one on you. So I'm going to need you to back. You can have them other task force people jump in this, but I'm going to need you to back the hell up and not corroborate or work with them, because I got you. So then Dave goes to see the one person that sort of he can relate to, who sort of understands him, and gave him the heads up about this task force. He goes to go see Reba. Reba's husband and kid are off. And at that point, Dave says, like, yeah, Ashley's called it off. He's like, Ashley, we just didn't see eye to eye. We weren't going in the same vein. Reba kind of calls BS on it. But Reba is a person who knows Dave and is like, I'm going to tell it to you like it is. Like, look, we aren't the same person. Like, when I look in the mirror, I see a selfish bitch, and I know it, and I'm okay with that. Like I've accepted that. That is who I am. You look in the mirror, and you are a selfish bitch, but you see a hero. Like you see yourself as the best person on earth in that moment, and that is where you and I separate. Like I know what I am. You're putting on this facade that you're something else. And then she straight up asked him, like, "Did you break the law?" Because the detective that came in here was not writing a book. She was clearly investigating you. And he says he didn't do anything. She's like, anything? You didn't do anything? Because I thought that. But then she unbuttons her shirt and she has a scar mark, a burn mark, where in the previous episode, I believe it was a strawberry episode, he makes that trail of fire on the one woman that he brought to the hotel to have sex with. It's the same area, same idea, same thing that he did to her, he did to Reba. Reba was into it though, because then the next thing you know, that they banging like two wild animals in heat, violently smacking each other. They both get off on violence. They both have a propensity for violence. But she brings up like, "Hey, this happened," and she's like, "No, that was an accident." It's like, "Nope, you were smiling when it happened." So that's what leads to their carnal sex. Now, while they're having their very ferocious and volatile sex, Ezra and Dawn are on a stakeout outside and they're watching this, and so they can see that that's happening. And that's an important piece to note because it puts a placement on where Dave is when the next piece of this happens. Steve and Michelle go back after a little bit of a chat, go back and meet at Steve's home, abandoned home, where there's no family and there's no kids. It's just Steve and the house. And so um, she starts to having this little bit of a small talk about, like, how are the kids and how's the wife? And Steve's like, "You don't have to do this. You've never asked about the kids before." He's like, "Well, I'm here now. I'm asking." She's genuinely doing it as a friend. And this is where Steve, I think, and Michelle are on two different wavelengths. She's genuinely doing this as a friend coming to talk. So like, "Hey, I'm just talking about stuff." Steve is doing this as like, "Hey, this is a setup piece. You don't need to talk about my family or whatnot. We can just bang because that's what I want from you. Like I want to have that piece." That's how you can already see that these two are on two completely different wavelengths. But it's at that point Steve says, like, "Look, I was cheating on my wife with the job way before I was ever doing it with you." And so it seems like they're having a really good friendly rapport. They continue to drink and they get a little bit cozier. They're eating some pizza, sitting down side by side. And Steve starts to like big up Michelle's like, "Hey, look, I can see you. I can see this is what you want. I can see you're better than others. I can see you one day being the boss. I can see you being the boss. I can see you doing what I do. I can see you being in control." It's like, "Is that what you want?" It's like, "Yeah, I think I do. I want that." There's a bit of a pause, and then he makes a pass at her. He tries to kiss her, and she pushes him off, rebuffs it immediately, and it's kind of like, "What the hell are you doing?" And then they go at it because again, they weren't approaching this scenario at the same level. She was genuinely looking for a friend. She just got ripped apart by Dave. Her mom's coming home. She just needed a friend to lay into, and he's like, "Hey, my wife's gone, my kid's gone. You're finally in my house. I'm finally getting that next step where you're coming to be with me. Let's do it. Let's bang." And he's like, I don't get it. You came into my house, the house that you destroyed. You let my wife go. Like I did everything for you. The least he's of mine. So the least you could do is bang me. I'm going to agree with Steve in that Michelle didn't think this through the best. I think she wasn't completely honest with herself and honest with like she needs another friend besides the person that she was also banging, and that's where this sort of gets messy. Her captain, her friend, and then her former lover all roll into one person is not the best person to sort of have a confidant in. And so there's a naivete of saying, "Hey, I thought I could just come and hang out as friends." That said, there are power dynamics here at play, and so Steve is using them incorrectly in this because he keeps every time he doesn't get what he wants, he says like, "You're going to be exiled. I'm going to bury you. I'm going to put you away," which sets Michelle on edge because this is what she wants. She wants this job. She wants this career. And every time that I don't give in to you because you're my boss, you're saying you're going to keep me, put your thumb on me and keep me in place. He then doubles down and says all that buttering up he was doing about her being a boss and all that stuff was just to get her in her pants, which it's not true, but he's saying because he's hurt now. He's in pain. And so she's like, "F it, I'm out." She goes to leave. Steve grabs her hand and she turns around just on instinct, and there's like a quick jab, probably from some of the fights that she's watched, but a quick jab to his throat, which crushes his windpipe in his throat. And he can't breathe. He can't catch a breath. He falls to the ground, and he initially pulls out a pin, like a writing pin, to say, "Hey, you're going to need to go ahead and puncture my throat to give me an airway so that I can breathe again." She panics. Now, I think it's uh, a, a, a little bit of panic and a little bit of, "Hey, I can't let him live now because if I do, I'm going to be in deep shit. I'm going to be in deep shit because this man would rat on me. I would be in trouble. He's going to keep a thumb on me. My career, I'm going to be in a rut. So maybe I just let the person that I love die." And there's a moment where we see a lot of flashbacks of when they were in bed together. And she truly does love him because he's like, look, he says, "I love you" in the flashback. And then she says, "If you love me back, just smile." And she smiles and kind of gives him that. So she genuinely does love Steve. And I think eventually she may have gotten to the point where they would have had a relationship again, but he wanted that now, he wanted that then. And in that moment, she just wanted a friend. And it didn't work out. And so she lets him die right there on the floor, dead. And then she quickly gets into cleanup mode, which is kind of scary how her brain works, but also shows you that a person born in the fire, she gets to thinking really fast on her feet. She is just like the rest. She's just like Dave. She's just like Freddie. She has to remove the evidence, the body of any sign of her being here. She gets to cleaning up. She cleans up everything, and then she sets a fire. She sets it up. She does the whole DNC stuff with the cigarette and the coin, sets it up. And then it seems like, though, until she gets to her car, she is just setting up a fire with using that same sort of motive, kind of putting it towards the DNC, but not really fully leaning into putting it on Dave until she gets to her car and realizes that Dave left DNA with a napkin there. And so she quickly takes that and throws that back in the fire, and then gets back to her car and takes off and leaves. Uh, well, Jesus, that that escalated quick as hell. A really powerful way to end that episode and say that, hey, we now have 3 arsonists. Well, we had Freddie's gone. We now have 2 arsonists. But what's going to be interesting, the person that was keeping Michelle down left and right was Steve. And now she looks like she has set up the DNC fire to look like Dave has done this. And like now she will sort of be the hero and she can sort of take the accolades and the boss. And everything sort of makes sense because what they did not have to point Dave towards was a motive. And now there was a room where everybody saw Steve punch Dave. And now there's an easy motive connection of say, hey, he embarrassed him in front of everybody. So he went back to burn down his home. The problem with that is that there are 2 people who know Dave was nowhere near that house at the time of that. And they're a part of the task force. So it's going to be interesting to see, do they turn their head to get Dave dead to rights because they know that he did it? Or do they kind of just say, nah, we can't. We know Dave didn't do this one. And so that's going to be the tit for tat. Do they all sort of swallow their pride and be like, nah, we got him. This is it. We're gonna take him out here. Yeah, there are a lot of gray areas here. But great. It's for great television. It's so good. Um, but yeah, I'm curious to see how Ezra and Dawn, who clearly see where Dave is at the moment that fire is set, what they say about all of this, and how this fire clearly wasn't set by Dave. And how far does Michelle take this? Taking the Steve death and whatnot. Who knows? Who knows? I think that Wire having the conversation with about Steve and how they had a relationship may get her off because there are people now who know that they did have something, but who knows? It's a messy situation. There's a lot of information out there about both Dave and Michelle. but most people aren't going to point to Michelle because Michelle has been such a dog trying to get Dade. And the one person who knew that Michelle was sort of crossing the line a little bit to get some of these busts was Steve, and he's off the table. What did you guys think about this extremely powerful episode called Mercy? Go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on X at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.